It's time. It's episode 73, the ATM podcast. Myself, Martin Devlin. The inimitable Mark Watson, broadcaster of international acclaim. We're going to kick it off with Hamish Kerr and Geordie Beamish, not to mention, of course, our silver medalists at the World Indoor Athletics Champs. The Black Caps, do we have to? Oh, God, rugby dying all over the world. The Sevens, the Melbourne round again, even though the rugby was pretty spectacular, I thought. This Hurricanes Poua Haka, we've got to mention that, Mark, and also the fact that Sky TV have buried main freight rugby and grassroots rugby. And where are you, Mark Robinson, in New Zealand rugby? Oh, that's right. You're too busy at a World Rugby meeting talking about being fan-centric to actually even care what goes on in your own backyard.
Apologise to me!
Let's start with the positive, though. We've had Hamish Kerr on the show today, giving us 15 minutes while he's sitting there at the airport. Absolutely fascinating insight into what goes on, the psychology of that event. And I couldn't be more pleased for this young man who changed his technique. He's just won a world title. Geordie Beamish on the back of that, a couple of silver medals. Mark, you're going to be calling the Olympics. Well, let's hope you are going to be calling the Olympics, but you're a white man and you could probably be axed, actually, by the time that rolls around. I mean, I'm not even kidding, you know, in Paris, and I hope not. Seriously. But, mate, you can't celebrate enough, can you, when the black singlet does things inside the stadium? This is what's important to me, Mark. We win a lot of medals outside the stadium, but the ones inside of the stadium are even more precious, aren't they?
Yeah, look, a remarkable 24 hours, 48 hours for New Zealand athletics. Boy, I tell you what, it is so incredibly hard at the top level. And you know, I say this, they build the Olympic stadium for track and field. So it's the biggest sport at the Olympic Games. It's a sport that is just so truly global. Hamish Kerr, I was lucky enough to call that high jump final when we saw Basham of Qatar and Tamberi of Italy share the gold medal. And Hamish that night broke the New Zealand record, jumped 2 metres 31 and finished 10th in a remarkable achievement. You know, since then, clearly I've followed his progress, and he said, look, you know, he made some changes following those games to his jumping technique, which ultimately meant he'd have to go backwards to go forwards. And that must be really scary to have that belief that you are going to go beyond what you once jumped when you're actually jumping considerably less, because you're still getting your head around the changes and still getting the head around the supplementary work required to make the changes. To win a World Indoor Athletic Championships, you know, there's a Halberg nomination right there, and he should be given one. But he is now genuinely in the medal contention at the Olympic Games. You know, if you're 236, you're certainly in the bronze sort of medal contention, that discussion, and you're very much in the game. Geordie Beamish, what a remarkable athlete this guy is. Sort of introduced himself a little bit onto the athletic circuit last year at the World Track and Field Championships when he actually finished fifth in the 3,000 metre steeplechase, which is, you know, a race that is predominantly just dominated by the African nations. And he beat the long-standing record held by the great Peter Renner, the New Zealand record. He's then gone on not long ago and set a new 5,000 metre record of just over 13 minutes. That record, you know, a long-established record, was actually held by Dick Quacks at 13:13. So he's running 10 seconds quicker than that. And then Adrian Blinko held the record at 13:10. And then he comes to these World Championships and wins the 1,500 metres, the blue ribbon race, and picks up a gold medal with one of the great finishes. You know, I think he ran the last 100 metres in about 12 point something seconds, you know, which just means he's got an incredible kick. But what impresses me is just his range and his diversity and his ability to be able to step up distance and step down distance and maintain that speed. Yeah, and then you've got the Eliza McCartneys and the Tom Walshes picking up silver medals, a couple of fourth places as well. So really exciting year for Athletics New Zealand. I guess the frustration for me is, you know, I saw one of the journalists, young female journalists, trying to tell everybody who these athletes are. And I'm like, well, if you actually, you know, had the vision to just not constantly talk about rugby and rugby league and actually practice what you preach and actually have a little bit more sport equity, you wouldn't need to be telling everyone who they are, because a lot of people in the athletic circles have always known who they are. And it frustrates the hell out of me that it takes something like this for the media to give these guys any coverage.
Well, they're not the Black Caps, and so, you know, and you know, they aren't women's rugby, and so therefore, you know, the mainstream sports media won't allocate time, resources, or people to cover this stuff, mate. You know, I'm sitting there over the weekend and wondering where the critical analysis is of this Black Cap side of dreadful selection decisions of a captain and a coach who are unable to read a pitch in New Zealand, and that's the second time in a row, of a team that beats up on South Africa, and that TVNZ nauseating commentary, which is just It's worse than listening to the Fox guys out of Vegas telling us that no other sporting event in the world has ever matched this NRL thing taken. You know, the Black Caps played a G South African team, beat up on them and were in trouble in the second test. For those of us who are howling at the moon, Mark, and you really do feel like it, you feel like you're the only person who's sitting there going, can we please get some reality on this? Then we go to the Basin Reserve and we bitch it. And that's all I can say. That's the kindest thing I can say. We play like we are afraid of their team. What the hell is it when we play Australia, mate?
Oh, we're just not good enough. I mean, firstly, mate, why would the ground staff prepare a pitch that's got so much grass on it? What? That somehow their batsmen are going to be vulnerable to our pace attack. And if we can give Southey and these guys a green top, we're going to skittle through their top order. But our batting is so good ourselves that the same conditions, we're going to be able to negotiate and see off arguably one of the great test bowling attacks that Australia does present. I mean, I just scratch my head. Why do you make these? Why do you have a pitch that basically just plays purely in the hands of the Australians? I mean, what part of when did our top order ever prove themselves against quality bowlers on a green pitch? We never have. I just scratch my head there. You know, we're playing at home. Make the pitches conducive to New Zealand conditions. At least give ourselves a damn chance. That's the first thing. But look, I think Tim Southey's time's probably up, to be honest, in the Black Caps. I don't think he's a captain. I don't think he bowled particularly well. I think he's past his use-by date. You know, we don't want to ever seem to start with a standard spinner. Doesn't matter what the conditions are, the Australians always start Nathan Lyon. He's always in that team, no matter what the conditions are. No, but we just never, ever want to seem to develop a spinner or stick with a spinner or try and find a world-class spinner. Yeah, we'll bring Mitch Santner in. He's a bit of a defensive bowler. They didn't even use him this weekend. You know, you got Ajaz Patel sitting there, takes 10 wickets in a test. You'd think the guy would start in every single test match and you give him time and you develop it and you make him a weapon. No, we don't want to do that. We are just so damn conservative in our approach. Our top order is woeful. And I think we are a pretty average cricket team.
Apologise to me!
But I do just want to touch on this Women's Super Rugby Opaki Hurricanes Haka.
Go on, because nobody else will talk about this because everyone else is too scared to talk about this. I'll just give you my quick take on it. I think it's very exclusive. I don't mind anyone having whatever political opinions that they have, and you'd be free to express them on all the social media platforms you've got and everything else. But to me, a Wellington representative sports team is exactly that. It is representative of the whole of Wellington. And to paint everyone who voted for the new government and everyone in that government as some right-wing racist redneck, I just say, really? So now if we're not a member of your exclusive club with your separatist political views, then the rest of us have no part to play, no support to offer, and nothing to engage with your team. Well, that's great. Shut the door in our face then, because you don't have any customers in your shop anyway, and what you're doing is saying to the rest of us, we don't want you. Well, in that case, that's fine. That's fine. I'm quite happy to accept that. You stay there with your 100 customers, your 100 viewers, no one watching, no one's interested. And if all you want to do is paint your own personal political agenda, well then, and New Zealand Rugby won't step in and say something about this, well, I mean, you know, you've lost the plot and you've lost whatever audience you were trying to gain.
But Martin, this is again two rules. I mean, I remember TJ Perenara a few years ago got into trouble for a political statement. I think maybe on some taping.
Wristband, yeah.
We've had Kane Hames in the past get into a bit of trouble. You know, we've always said that that's not a forum for your own political views. You know, the All Blacks, you're representing New Zealand. You know, as you mentioned, the Hurricanes, you're representing a region of New Zealand. Now, last time, I think 66% of the country, like it or not, voted for this current coalition government. And for a haka to have the lines, I think it's Kariteo o Te Kawana Kakifero, translate to puppets of this redneck government. How dare you come out and do a haka in women's Opaki rugby and basically put the boot into people like myself. Nobody's watching your damn game. No one's watching your damn game. You know, we've got the same people telling us this is the future of the game and it's a better product than the men's game. Where are the media jumping all over this? Because if it was the men's game, they would be jumping all over this. Everybody is too scared because the players involved here are Māori, because the players here are women as well.